Okay, um, this is a follow-up video. The audio is absolutely terrible. Um, I'm tired of trying to fix the audio. I underestimated how difficult it would be to fix the audio and video. So for the video, I got a new camera, um, and that has just been trying to get it to work as a viable webcam. Underestimated how difficult that would be also. I'll show you the camera. This is what it looks like. So much higher quality video for sure, but lighting, um, focus, just it's involved. Too involved. I even have I tried to do an external microphone to improve the audio, and that ended up being like a time consuming. I thought it would be very straightforward to just set this up. People do this all the time. They actually put in quite a bit of work. Hats off to them. Hats off to all these YouTubers, man. This is no joke. Setting it up, getting the video to look good, and the audio to look good is non-trivial. So, but I did make, I tried to make some improvements, failed miserably at it because I didn't just put a lot of time into it, didn't put nearly enough time into it. So next video um, um, will be, I won't underestimate it quite as much. Now though, I'm just like, man, do I really want to put in that time? Anyway, so I've been kind of dreading this. I said that the next video is going to be on kind of a complicated topic, how I got involved with now. Um, so I've just been kind of dreading that because it's a very long story. It really could be like a saga. And I just figured the best way to approach it is just to be very straight up, very honest, and not even try to script anything and just like record. Um, I wish the audio was decent, so I'll try to boost this audio maybe like artificially in Kden Live, or maybe probably Kden, because I don't want to deal with Premiere or Final Cut or anything like that. That's just too much time. I'll probably just try to boost it. Maybe Adobe Soundwave or something like that. I forgot what it's called. I'll try to boost it somehow, some simple way. Um, all right. So, how am I going to start this? Just let me think. Well, the story goes way back. So I won't start from the very like initial motivation. Just a lot of craziness happened in starting in like 2012 when my parents have a nursing assistant program, and so I just got interested. I got involved really in healthcare through that. Sort of going to my mom started a nursing agency. My parents started a nursing agency. My mom got her RN while that was her first job her first job was actually as a janitor. My parents worked as janitors, and then my mom just had the foresight to say, let me go back to school in this new country, and she got her RN, struggled. So she became an RN and then founded a nursing agency. So healthcare just was in part of the family. And then that's how I took an interest in it, just trying to help out. Once they started the school, it was really only my mom able to teach for some reason. I didn't know why. My dad didn't go down that road. It was a lot of, it was a lot on my mom's plate to be able to have to be the only instructor really, and it'd be very useful. She had a friend of hers that was helping her out to teach, but essentially we were depending on those two. And if something happened to my mom, there's no guarantee that the school would have been able to continue. So I tried to just help out by quickly, seemed like relatively straightforward to just be able to go back to school, add that. My primary interest was not in healthcare. My primary interest was actually in, physics and engineering. I always wanted to build planes. Always wanted to fly planes since I was a little kid, and I just genuinely enjoyed taking things apart, understanding how things worked, and I was just curious about nature around me. My first degree, though, anyway, I don't want to go off too much of a tangent. So anyway, that's how I got sort of interested in healthcare. And then I enrolled in nursing school, like just a very like basic LPN program. I just wanted to get one simple like certification out of the way, and then maybe add to it later on. So I figured LPN would be easy, would be fast, and seemed fairly, no real issues in the beginning. And then just a lot of absolute nonsense happened towards the end of it. Once the clinical portion of the program began, first board at the beginning was a little bit strict, and that kind of a red flag. I was like, this is nursing. Like, I know a lot of nurses, they literally have like middle school level. Like, I mean, they're asking me like how to spell words that anyone who graduated high school should know how to spell. So I was just like, this can't be that hard. Why are they so strict in the beginning? And then once the clinical portion began, it just got like ridiculous. One instance that just stinks out to my mind was we were talking about nursing diagnoses, which are absolute nonsense in my opinion. I'll make a video about that later on. So I told this clinical instructor, this is not a statement of any kind of serious underlying cause. That I had a degree in physics already at that point. I had graduated my bachelor's in physics. I struggled to get that degree though. It was not easy. Anyway, so and I was just like, we were in a clinical site, and I remember telling her, I was just like, this is not, why are we writing this if this is not actually giving additional information about this patient's condition? This is not any kind of statement of underlying cause of what's happening. So it's not a scientific statement of any kind of underlying cause. So why are we calling it a diagnosis? Why are we, what is this? So, and we got into a little bit of a discussion about it, maybe a little bit of a debate about it, which is good because it's, this is school. We're supposed to be debating these things with the instructor. The scientific veracity of diagnoses is something you should be debating with your instructor in a school program. This is a college, community college. So that's something that should be healthy, I think, in a college. So, and that was the beginning of very, very just like crazy interactions with nursing instructors. I remember she said, oh, you're very smart. In the way she said it. So we were just disagreeing on the scientific legitimacy of these diagnoses, and then she just suddenly was like, you're very smart. She agreed actually with some of the, one of the diagnoses was like difficulty coping or something like that, or it was like at that point, the nursing diagnoses had changed, but back then there were some ridiculous diagnoses. One of them was just like impaired fail. I'm trying to think offhand. It was something like I don't know. I can't think of. But anyway, so difficulty, impaired mobility is a very common one. There was one back then that was just absolutely just ludicrous. In Africa, I think it was impaired spirituality. Yeah, impaired spirituality, something like that. And I was like, how is this any kind of? How did you assess this? How do you quantify this? So anyway, so she was like, yeah, you're right. And then she suddenly just was like, you're very smart. And I was like, nope. I tried to work. I barely graduated with my bachelor's. It was a difficult. I generally enjoy math. That's why if you enjoy something enough, you'll eventually succeed in it. You'll find a way to. If you love something enough, you'll find a way to succeed in it. And luckily, I just genuinely enjoy being wrong. I enjoy correction, and I found a culture of correction and. In physics, and of investigating things, and of just being curious about the nature of things around us. And so I just, I found a good environment of a supportive environment in physics, and I was able to succeed in it. Thank God. Because engineering I also enjoyed, but I didn't. As I was getting further and further in engineering, it became more and more business-like and very, very, I just wasn't fast enough also. I didn't do well in exams, but I do remember I lost a lot of motivation when I remember this fluid mechanics instructor at the beginning of this class. This guy came in and dressed like very, very well dressed, business, dressed very business professional, business like, that is. So in the beginning of the class, he was just talking about how lucrative it is to be like an engineer and to know fluid mechanics. And he highlighted the fact that Shell was like sponsoring the course, and it just like the motivation essentially sounded like business. Yeah, fundamentally like a business motivation, and not like any kind of scientific motivation, or just plain like curiosity motivation. Fluid mechanics affects everything around you. And he was framing it as if this is a way to make a lot of money. And this is the instructor of the course. So that was the first fluid mechanics course that I took. And at that point, there were other instances, but that was one of the big ones where I was just like, like engineering was starting to, like, it was becoming harder for me to motivate myself in engineering. And then I wasn't that fast also. You have to be very fast on exams. So I just wasn't a fast test taker at the same time. Somehow in physics, well, just like practically in physics, you would get literally unlimited time on final exams. The semester exams, you had to work diligently, but the final exam, you didn't have to work. So as long as you understood what you were doing, you were working diligently, you could work as long as it took. And that ended up saving my life. That was how I was able to graduate with that degree. And so it was something that I loved, and I just encountered a culture that was centered around curiosity and investigation, and not so much money really at all. Physicists don't tend to care that much about money. And it was just like, anyway, I can go on about, that's a whole nother tangent. So now I'm in nursing though. And so I just was very, coming from that culture of just investigation and just doing what is scientifically accurate. I was just questioning this, and this instructor was just like, okay, you're very smart. And I was just like, no, this is very obvious. There's no, how do you legitimize? I'm not the first person who's noticed this. I'm pretty sure of that. Yeah, when I said that, she got very quiet. When I told her, I said, I just try to work hard. I'm really not that smart, honestly. I don't understand why we're just letting this go. And yeah, she just got very quiet when I said, when I said I'm not that smart, and I just try to work hard. And I just don't understand. I'm sure I'm not the first person who's realized this about nursing diagnoses. She suddenly got very quiet. She didn't say anything back. Then I just went about the day. The next meeting I had with this instructor, I'm sitting at a desk. She pulls me into a meeting with the program coordinator. I'm sitting at a desk. The program coordinator is sitting across from me. So there's three people in this meeting. There's myself, this instructor, and the program coordinator. And in this meeting, this clinical instructor looks at the program coordinator, and not even looking at me. He's just like, I cannot continue teaching this student because I'm afraid. And she just very calmly and very directly just stated that she was no longer, she felt afraid continuing to teach me in that program. She was like, I can't continue teaching this student specifically. So I don't know if she meant that she wanted to still continue. She wanted me to like be removed from the program. I don't know what it was, but she just very clearly stated that she didn't feel safe. She was afraid of me, and we hadn't had any interaction outside of that one debate, that one disagreement regarding nursing diagnosis. Everything else was fine. I was just kind of disinterested in a lot of it was boring. So she would come up to me a lot and be like, you seem bored. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm bored because like, this is supposed to be like a science. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're just trying. clinical involved just watching nurses try not to get fired for 12 hours. Like, it was just like, what in the world? These women are just trying not to get, the vast majority were female, and they were just like, there was no real research going on, no real investigation into anything. It was just people trying not to get fired for 12 hours and just going through the motions, and protecting their license with like, like with their life. They were clinging on to that license like it was anyway. So everything was like, oh, this is going to make me lose my license. Oh, this is going to be, this is possible HIPAA. And there was so many rules on top. It was just very boring and uninteresting, uninspiring. So she came up to me several times, and I just was honest. I was like, yeah, I'm a little bit bored. There's nothing really interesting going on in this clinical. We're there for like 8 hours, 8 to 12 hours, so long clinical hours. But that's really it. I mean, nothing really, we didn't interact that much. So no real basis for this woman to be afraid outside of maybe that one private conversation about nursing diagnoses. And I didn't understand how that would cause someone to be afraid. And so she, to her credit, the program coordinator I don't know what she was going through, but she very calmly just said to the instructor, there's no reason to be afraid of the student. There's no reason to be afraid. I don't know what you want me to do. She didn't say that, but she was like, yeah, okay, well, there's no reason to be afraid of this student. And she was just like, okay, we need to move on from this because you have no reason to be afraid of this student. So she was sort of, on my side at that point. We eventually came up with criteria that she would just check off on my clinical checklist, and then and that was it. Like it didn't require us to really interact besides her just checking off my skills, and that was it. So that was the first negative interaction. Second negative interaction, very long story. This is very long already. Was with this woman from Georgia. They could southern accent. Unlike the first instructor, to her credit, that first instructor who said that she was afraid, our interactions were relatively professional, collegial, student-instructor type interactions. She was very, just straightforward. This is what's required, and from then on especially, this is what's required. Okay, I'll check you off, and that's it. The next instructor, this woman from Georgia, was not like that. She would just stare. Like, you can imagine how uncomfortable this would be. You're interacting with your instructor at a clinical site, and she's just staring at you constantly. Like every little thing that I do, she would just with wide eyes, be looking at what I was doing. But other than that, nothing really out of the ordinary. The staring was a little bit strange. And then, towards the end of that program, towards the end of that clinical rotation, we didn't get along. There were a lot of, side comments she made, and I would just leave the room. She would talk a lot about nonsense, Bachelor episodes, things that I just wasn't interested in. She's a big fan of just The Bachelor and shows like that, and that's fine. But I was just like, what is this? Why are you talking about this at clinical? Again, nothing scientifically interesting. Her response to me being bored and having that kind of impression about the profession was not the same sort of attitude that the first instructor had, where she was like, yeah, the student should be bored. This student, this is a program, this academic program. The student should be trying to get to the underlying, nature of things. Should be trying to investigate things. This is the science, after all. She didn't have that attitude at all. She was had an attitude of, this is the way it is. What's wrong with this student? Anyway, so towards the end of the program, I have a meeting with that instructor, the one from the second instructor, and basically she sort of it wasn't even really a debate, but it was the basis of something later on about this patient not being able to have information about his medication. So this patient apparently was a drug addict, and he had drugs that were ordered by the doctor, physician, and she believed that it wasn't, because he was an addict, that it wasn't appropriate to let him know all the medications that was in his order. So she believed the role of the nurse was basically to withhold information that would allow him to maybe request medications that would sort of feed his addiction more than was good for him. So the nurse would decide this is when you can have this drug, and wouldn't really tell him all the drugs that he had ordered. And I was like, well, why did the doctor order those drugs for him? Isn't it the doctor's responsibility to either give the order or not give the order? Shouldn't you be calling the doctor and figuring out why did you do this order? Why did you give this patient this order? How are you unilaterally sort of making this call? So we had a little bit of a debate about that. I was like, well, if it's in his order, you need to be honest, tell him what's in the man's order, like don't withhold information from yes, he's an addict and you should be trying to do the best for him, but your issue is with the physician, not with the patient. The physician who gave the order is who your issue is with. Anyway, so we had a little bit of a debate. And then, like a week before the end of, I just sensed something this woman was going to do something. So almost like, I think a week or 2 weeks before I was, I'd get about to finish the program. So because of these issues, like I'd filed some complaints, obviously, regarding the program. I hesitated to file a complaint regarding the first instructor because she was just so honest about her being afraid. I had a hard time believing that she was faking it and there was anything malicious. It was just the most absolutely odd interaction I've ever had with an instructor. I got the sense that she was genuinely afraid, which caused me to was wild to think about why. And I just still to this day, ponder what the source of that fear was. But it seemed very genuine, and I hesitated to complain. I filed complaints about other things, but I filed a complaint about her. I was just like, this woman is just being honest. And then her behavior was generally professional also. So it was just very, very strange. Anyway, so 2 weeks before the conclusion of the program, this other woman, I'm pulled into a meeting. Phoenix police show up because I filed a lot of complaints with the college. So during one of the exams in the morning, I'm taking an exam. You can imagine what the scene is like. In the middle of the exam, the beginning of the exam, suddenly I notice police like outside the door through the window, and they enter the classroom. Or I think it was this guy. It was like a dean or something, associate dean or something like that I had been emailing about some of the issues with the program. I think it was him that came in and was like, David, you need to leave the classroom, or pointed at me to go. And then he's obviously backed by these cops. And so I stopped my exam, exit, and I basically escorted out. All the students noticed. They're like, what's going on? They see these cops, like 3 or 4 of them, escort me out of the exam room. And I'm taken into a meeting. And this instructor, the program coordinator, basically, and the associate dean, hand me a piece of paper, and they're like, you're not graduating from this program. You're not going to be able to continue in the program because you didn't pass clinical. And you have to pass the clinical portion of the course in order to graduate. So that's the basis of us removing you at this point, because you will not pass the clinical portion. Which, why didn't you just let me know? Why did that require Phoenix Police come in? Probably because I don't know, they thought that there was going to be some kind of interaction. I don't know why they wouldn't have just let me finish the program and just say, oh, you didn't pass clinical. Why they had to just pull me out suddenly at that point and basically tell me there's no point in you continuing because you're not going to pass clinical, so we're not even going to let you continue to take exams. Like bonkers, like absolute insanity. I've never seen anything like that before. And in the middle of this meeting, the piece of paper that they handed me outlined the reasons why I wasn't passing clinical. And this clinical instructor had essentially one of the reasons that stuck out was she said that I didn't demonstrate compassion towards patients, or I didn't demonstrate therapeutic, communication with patients, etc. And the evidence she gave was one of them was an instance where she said that I had rubbed alcohol too aggressively on this patient. This is one of the instances where I successfully started that IV, I believe. I successfully started an IV on this patient, and she was just staring at me the whole time. Um, and Anyway, so I remember that incident. She wrote that while interacting with that patient, I rubbed alcohol to her. This is one of the few times she observed me do anything, really do an injection. Was starting this IV, and she said during an injection, I had rubbed alcohol too hard on this patient's skin, like as a basis, like for removing someone from a pro. Like at no point did she approach me and say, "Oh, this is not how you do it. I'm obviously a student. I don't know how the proper way to rub alcohol is something you train. Maybe it was a little too hard, but that's complete utter nonsense. Like that doesn't harm the patient in any way. In fact, like you're trying to clean the site. Anyway, and then another example was that one that I mentioned where we had a disagreement over whether or not to tell the patient's orders. And she was like, this student is unethical. He knew that this patient was an addict. He demonstrates unethical behavior. These were the two big ones that founded her decision to not pass me for the clinical portion. So because I didn't pass the second rotation, this instructor didn't give me a passing mark. I don't know what if it's a grade. I don't think it's a grade. It's just basically her opinion. So I wasn't all that financial aid, all that time flushed down the drain. They decided I would not be eligible to pass the program because this clinical instructor, had not passed me. So and as I was walking out, I remember just like. I don't know what I even said. I said it was complete, total, like, I think I did state that it was, I felt it was discrimination at that point. The associate dean was a black guy. So he's from Louisiana, and he liked the word dunamis. He always liked to use the word dunamis. I think he was a religious guy. I generally, had no issue with him, but he was just complacent with the status quo when it came to this. He didn't fully understand what I was getting at regarding the program. How it wasn't a science, it was just like a pseudoscience, and this is this is part of the problem of healthcare, and we should be trying to solve these very serious problems with the industry, with the profession. Anyway, so he said when I said it was discrimination, somehow it like set him off or something like that, and he said that I was expelled. As I was leaving the meeting, I just decided, you know what, I'm not continuing with this meeting anymore. I'll you'll deal with this. You'll deal with my. I think I said something like, you'll deal with my you'll see me. I don't think I threatened to use like a lawyer or anything like that. I said I'll handle this through the complaint process or something like that. And I just left the meeting. That angered him because I accused him of discrimination, and he said, okay, you're expelled. They expected me to like interact or say other things during the meeting. I don't know, but I just was like, nope, I'm leaving the meeting. You can't force me to stay. Cops can't force me to stay. I can anytime just leave the campus. So are you gonna arrest me like because I didn't pass the program? I don't know why those cops were there. So they were in the meeting. And I was just like, okay, I'm going home. That's it. Like this needs to end immediately. I'm going home. I'll just drive home and I'll deal with it from home. And that angered them. And he said, okay, you're expelled. Anyway, so I filed a complaint. A lot of complaints that went nowhere. And I will never forget the first complaint that I filed with OCR, Office of Civil Rights, Department of Education, and basically. I'll never forget this. I was having a conversation with the case, the attorney who was handling the case. I don't know if he was an attorney or whatever, the agent who was handling it. And I said, I just wanted everything to return back, to go back to normal. I was angry, of course, but I hated the fact that I even had to file the complaints in the first place. And I talked about the humiliation of having to even file a complaint, and how it was such an embarrassing thing to even have to go through the process. I was talking. I think I wrote this in my complaint. And I also like stated this to the agent over the phone. And it was just like, he was just like, I don't know what you're talking, if you were treated wrongly, then we'll investigate it. And he was like, what do you mean? There's no such no reason to be humiliated or feel embarrassed about this. I don't know what that's all about. And, I don't know what you're trying to argue there. And I was just like, that's the big thing. Like, it just didn't register in his head that it is the fact that I even had to go through that at all is like the biggest thing, the humiliating factor of it. I don't want to have to ever do that. I just want to be evaluated based on my performance, even if I fail. At least you learn something from failing. That as long as I failed on my own merits, and there's some kind of something to correct, something that can be corrected, then that's okay. Failure is okay. So I was just like having to be removed from a program when I felt like there was no legitimate basis for removal, and having to actually file the complaint, the humiliating aspect of that was the big thing for me. And he was like, well, he didn't get it at all. He was just like, if there's a legitimate, basis for removal, then we'll return you back, and we'll correct this injustice, etc. And it was just like, if it was. It just completely, I don't know if it went over his head or it just didn't sink in that was a big, it didn't register for him that was any kind of big issue. With the embarrassment that it caused me to experience. Anyway, so I ultimately didn't win that case. Took like a lot. I didn't hire any kind of attorney. I was just writing these complaints to OCR by myself, trying to legitimize, explain what had happened. I was like asking for records requests, and trying to like scour these records requests and find instances of discriminatory conduct by these, and trying to legitimize that to OCR. So anyway, they just decided they didn't meet their criteria for any kind of remedy. So I didn't win the case. Incredibly, Gateway Community College, the associate dean, or I don't know if it was the dean or associate dean of Gateway, we had a meeting. At the end of the meeting, she just decided. She said something to me in the meeting after hearing my explanation of it. She was just like nodding, and then the meeting ended, and I received an email, and it informed me that my expulsion had been changed to a warning. So all of that suddenly is just a warning. I don't even know what the basis of the warning was. I forget. And I was eligible to return, but obviously the program had ended. So I would have had to enroll again and start everything from scratch. So that's how that ended. And I remember being very bitter, very angry at suddenly that culture and these personalities in nursing, these women in nursing, because my beef. There were some great instructors there. There was like one in particular that was very nice, but so many of them were just complicit with this culture. That sort of began my anger towards nurses, and just frustration with the healthcare. And then I enrolled in another program right after that, because I had spent all this money and all this time, and somehow after that, in the aftermath of all that, I found out about an accelerated post-baccalaureate program at Arizona State, at ASU, and I enrolled in that. I'm not even going to detail the nonsense that happened in that program, but I'll just, summarize it in that they put 11 credit hours of Fs on my transcript. 11 credit hours of Fs, because nursing classes are worth like 5 credits, even though the content probably deserves not even maybe 1 credit. They're able to inflate it to like 5 credits. This nursing theory course was like 5 credits. It was filled with like probably middle school level content in terms like science, like in terms of the actual academic rigor. Most 12, 13-year-olds would, I think, find it equivalent to their courses in the 8th grade, 9th grade. The homework was like rare, maybe once a month, and we just like wrote an essay, like 400-word essay. It was just a lot of like listening to PowerPoints. There are a lot of exams though, but like any middle schooler could have studied the book and done well on those exams. The actual homework involved, the actual academic rigor was at the middle school level. And this was a 5-credit-hour course. Anyway, and so I didn't pass that program because this, I don't want to go too far into it, but they found there are these yellow forms in every nursing program, and that was also a basis for me getting removed from the first program, where there's these warning forms that are, I found out after the fact, are like basically legal CYAs, cover your butt sort of documents, where if you get one of these forms at any point, then an instructor in nursing, I think it's for other health programs too, but it's used a lot in nursing, can basically do whatever they want. All they have to do is give you the form. There is no like questioning the correctness of the form, the basis of it. As long as you get a form, then they have just cause to just remove you from the program. And I think that's probably what was fueling the administrators in that first instance, where they felt like, oh, he's been given a form before, we don't even need to let him take exams, we can just remove him because he's been given one of these forms. So at ASU, they used these forms also, and they were very tactful in using these forms. So I got one for plagiarizing a care plan about myself. The very first care plan I ever wrote. Apparently, I had not cited properly. I referenced a source, it was this nursing diagnoses book, but I didn't properly cite it. And so that was a basis for getting a yellow form and for plagiarism. And I eventually had a meeting with that instructor, and she said she gave me a document that I had to sign that stated that I would write an essay about integrity in nursing, and that it would be accepted in order for me to pass. I would have to be accepted in order for me to pass, and that's why I would not get a 0, and I would not have it escalated any further to maybe getting expelled from ASU for not citing that source that was referenced. And there was the only source that was referenced in this care plan about myself. Anyway, so a lot more tactful than the community college faculty. These women were a lot more sort of seasoned in how to use these political, these like healthcare political sort of like tools in this form. They call it anecdotal notes of concern was the name of it. Anecdotal notes of concern. If you get one of these anecdotal notes of concern, it played the same role as the yellow form or the warning form. I think ASU was what called it a yellow form. Yeah, ASU was actually the color yellow, and they sometimes call it a yellow form, but it was formerly called the anecdotal notes of concern. But it played the same role as the same document at the community college. Anyway, so I was removed from that program for that, and then another instance where after an exam, I had like posted the questions to the exam because I didn't think there was anything wrong with. We weren't allowed access to the questions after an exam. We had to like have a private meeting with the instructor, and it was a big deal when you finish an exam to actually access your mistakes. So yeah, I just tried to memorize as many questions as I could during one exam. And I just, after the exam, I started writing down all the questions I could remember. I ended up, there was 50 questions. I think I remembered 36 with a little bit of help from one of my buddies. I posted that on like, there was a little group Facebook, just the questions and what I thought what the answers were. I didn't even remember them accurately. I just remembered the gist of the questions. And that was, I guess, violation of academic intellectual property of the instructor by writing. I was like violating that instructor's intellectual property by just summarizing these by creating a document of these questions and post after the exam. Anyway, so I was removed from that program, and so I was additionally very bitter now about nurses in particular and this culture, because this is like almost $20,000. I think the issue was like 12,000, and then the community college was like 5,000. So this is like approaching 20 grand now in student loans that resulted in nothing. So I was getting a little bit, and then the Fs were really the big thing. And I was just very, very, very distraught actually at the end of that, because I had to do something to rebuild. Luckily, the community college was like a skill center actually, so they used clock hours, so it had no effect on my GPA. I was just removed from this program, and it didn't affect my grade point average at the actual community college level at all, because they didn't use traditional credit hours. But at ASU, of course, they did. So this is 11 credit hours of Fs on my permanent transcript. And so I still had aspirations for some graduate program in the future. Even though my grades at Purdue were not that great in physics, they were just decent. But I wanted to maybe get into like a master's program at some kind of like a state school, and just like because I still was interested in physics and engineering, and just do something. Increase my education a little bit, and it would be very, very difficult to do that, to even get into another state school with 11 credit hours of Fs in nursing classes. So I just struggled to, and nothing against, I'm not saying like state schools are easy or anything like that, but I'm just like, they're usually not as, I wasn't, anyway, I'm not trying to like apply to Harvard or anything like that. So, but I still wanted to be able to get into a good graduate school, a decent graduate school. So it would have been impossible with those grades. So I was just like distraught after the ASU debacle happened. So that's out now twice, and very similar sort of events, very similar characters between these two programs, in ASU and this community college. There was like a pattern I was noticing in these nurses, these like white women who had a lot of power, and they were in a position, because of the structure of the healthcare programs, they really were just able to almost do whatever, as long as they give you one of these yellow forms, they they were at liberty to basically remove you at any point for anything. So they would just craft complete nonsense. So it was negatively impacting my life. I was very bitter about it, and then at that point, I sort of was thinking about taking a gender studies class, because I was getting really angry at white women, and so I was like, I need to understand where they're coming from, how they think, and not white women in general, but all of these nurses, they were engaging in this behavior. Were like, the Karen type, I hate to use that terminology, but just sort of entitled white women. Anyway, so I was thinking of taking a gender studies class. Before that, I decided to do something a little bit brazen and intentionally try to get kicked out of another program. And just like observe and try to understand what was going on. And this is how I actually did get valuable information about the nature of the yellow forms and how it's like a federal policy actually. Anyway, so I enrolled in another program, another community college program, did everything the same, just to try and get information about how this is able to be, they're able to do this. And I was able to get a lot of information about it, but it didn't take away from the pain of it, being, again, very, like, it was only like 4,000, so minimal sacrifice, and the way it ended, again, having to be humiliated by my peers. That time, I think it was like the clinical instructor again claimed that, like, she said that this wound, we're assessing this wound, and this wound was like very, very foul smelling. And so I said, but during the assessment, wow, when he unwrapped the wound, that's not a pleasant smell. and the patient did get a little bit embarrassed. I felt bad about it. But I didn't like, just to say that it's not a pleasant, you have to document the odor of a wound anyway. I didn't like the way that I said it. I was just caught off guard by the odor of the wound. And this clinical instructor seized upon this patient's reaction. The fact that this patient didn't like that and was a little bit embarrassed about the way I said it, she just seized upon that. And that was the basis she used to not let me pass. So she didn't, again, because if you don't pass the clinical portion, you don't pass the program. So I was pulled into another meeting and basically told you're not going to pass because this clinical instructor thinks that you don't demonstrate therapeutic communication or something like that with this patient. I didn't get along with them. I did everything the same. I filed a bunch of complaints. I think the first complaint was after, this instructor wanted me to sit like in the front. She put me into a meeting. There was an essay due on the first day, and I hadn't done it because I didn't really care that much about the program. I was just trying to get information about what's going on and about this culture. I did the essay. I wrote the essay during the class because, again, these assignments, they're big to nurses, like very difficult assignments, or assignments that the average 13-year-old, 14-year-old would probably not struggle to do. So this essay I was able to write during the class. It was like a 500-word essay, and submitted it. And she saw that I was able to write it. It was supposed to be like a big assignment you did at home. Brought it in that day. She saw that I was able to complete it before, I think, the break even. Before the break, I was able to submit it. I think it was like a 4-hour class. We took a break after 2 hours or something like that, and I was able to submit it before the break. I think it's actually a 2-hour class, and I was able to, anyway. So I just got the sense that irritated her, that it wasn't really a big deal that I hadn't done it. I was still able to do it during the class, and she pulled me into a meeting, and she's like, okay, you need to sit in this seat, in the front from now on. And I was like, this is a college class. What do you mean I need to sit in the front seat from now on? What basis? On what grounds? She's like, I just want you to sit in the front. Like, these white women in nursing are like drunk on power. Like, this woman was just like, I told you to sit in this row and you will sit in this row. And I was like, no, I will not do that. Like, what are the grounds of requiring me to sit in not that there's anything wrong with sitting in the front row, but just that, why do you think you can just tell me what to do like that? Why do you think you can just direct me like that? Like, I'm a student. This is a scientific, anyway, because these women don't care about any of that. So I'm just like, I don't think so. There needs to be grounds for me to my seat assignment, for me to have a seat assignment if no other student has a seat assignment, something like that. And I exited the meeting, and I think I just walked out of the meeting or something like that. Oh no, I exited the meeting. It was very cool. I just let her know that there's no basis for that, and I'm not going to do that. And she was like, okay. And so we didn't get along. And then the clinical instructor, I didn't get along with her because after the first day of clinical, I think it was the first day of clinical, she asked me to stay back. And she asked me why I'm not talking and interacting with the other students that much. Not that I wasn't, but they were talking about some show on I think it was Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something like that. Or there's another show like Doomsday Hoarders. I do remember Doomsday Doomsday Planners or something like that. Anyway, this is reality TV show. A lot of reality TV show talk. And I just wasn't that interested in the conversation because obviously that's just not things. Those are not things that interest me in general. Anyway, so I wasn't engaging in the. I was just quietly, working on things on my laptop. And she pulled me into a meeting. He's like, "Why aren't you interacting with your students?" And I was like, "Well, they were not talking about anything that interests me." And then she, again, just drunk on power, was like, "You need to interact with your students. You need to say something. You need to pretend to be interested in what's happening." just like throwing like her weight around, like, well, I'm telling you, you need to be interacting with your students. You're not interacting enough. And I'm just like, why do I have to? Why do I have to do that? What is wrong with me just quietly working on things during when I'm not interested in a conversation? So because I told you, you need to be conversating with your student. And I was just like, I think with this clinical instructor, I did basically tell her, like, there's no basis for you to, command me to do anything. You're my clinical instructor. You just need to evaluate me based on the accuracy or lack thereof of my work, correctness or lack thereof of my work. That's it. And then I just like started to leave the meeting, and then she was like, I didn't say the meeting was over. So she was really drunk on power. She's like, I didn't say the meeting was over. And I was just like, I don't care. And I just walked out of the meeting. And that greatly angered her. And she, after the fact, I think I read through like a records request that she sent an email to the other instructor that I didn't get along with, that I was putting her license in jeopardy, that she couldn't control my behavior, she can predict my behavior, that I was just demonstrated disregard for rules and for authority, disregard for authority. Anyway, so I got kicked out of that program, and expectedly, I was able to gather a lot of information though about it. So after that, that's when I sort of enrolled in this gender studies class. Or I think was it before U of A? But the final program that I enrolled in was the University of Arizona, because this was I don't even know what my motivation was. I felt like I had learned enough about the process, and through encouragement, I think of someone. Somehow I was just like, you know what? Now that I've learned, maybe I shouldn't, be trying to get kicked out of this. I made a mistake in intentionally trying to get kicked out of that community college program. Maybe I'm just approaching this in the wrong way, and I've spent so much time down this road now. Now that I've learned everything I need to learn, I've now learned a lot about what is actually the basis of what is allowing them to do this, legally at least. I felt like I was able to avoid it, and I think a lot of it also thinking a master's program would be different at a university like at the level of U of A, kind of a big name, university, probably the best school in the state in Arizona. Although in the Southwest, it's not saying a lot. We don't have very great universities in the Southwest. Nevada has the same problem. New Mexico has the same problem. East Coast, you guys have, we're blessed to have a lot of options. We don't really have that many options for the college level in the Southwest. Anyway, so U of A was probably the best school, and I felt that things would be different. I think that's why I enrolled in that. And I also enrolled in this gender studies program, this gender studies class, where I was actually applying at the same time. At the time I was applying to ASU, I was in this gender studies class, and also trying to build my GPA by taking a lot of credits from ASU, because the ASU grades were weighing on me, and I was trying to rebuild my academic record. Around, I think it was 2014, 2015, I forgot to mention that I got involved after I was, while I was in program at the very first program. I got involved with like Adios Arpaio, just like it was sort of another crazy series of events that I'm not going to go into. I got involved with Adios Arpaio, which is just an organization about trying to end discrimination against Latinos in Arizona. I'm not Latino myself, but I feel like people should be treated with basic dignity, especially people trying to find a better life for themselves. And there's a lot of reasons I joined that organization. But it was in the aftermath of SB 1070 and all this crazy stuff going on in Arizona. Anyway, so there was an event at ASU in like 2015 involving like a law, a proposed law that would have barred students who were the children of undocumented parents from receiving in-state tuition in Arizona. And I was just like, anyway, I wrote a statement regarding that, and I think I spoke about it, and I spoke about how education is transformative of a community, and how to educate those children would just be investing. It's just another form of investing in that community. It will pay huge dividends in the end. It will better Arizona. It will better the country to educate those children. Anyway, and so one of the like associate deans heard that, and after the meeting, he like gave me his card. He was like, "If you need anything, just give me a call." And so I let him know what had happened, a little bit of what had happened with my issues with nursing schools, nursing programs. And he sort of got in touch with another dean, and they sat me down. They're like, "Okay, well, what would you like to do? We would like to help you get another degree." And I was very, very much interested in getting another degree. I was trying to actively rebuild my grades through community colleges, and this is a university now. She offering me to help me directly rebuild my GPA. And so they basically offered me sort of like an unofficial scholarship. Well, I don't know, like I think it was an official scholarship to take classes. Basically reversing the money that I already spent on the nursing program. They couldn't directly give me that money back that I had lost, but they were willing to let me take classes at ASU for free. So it was just amazing. So I chose to major in math, something that I would actually be interested in. I practically had a math degree already because I studied physics. And I genuinely loved it, and I knew that I would be. I wouldn't struggle to. I could have obviously tried to get a degree in something that was more financially lucrative. So, but I just wanted to study something that I genuinely is interested in. I didn't want to make that mistake again. I felt like part of the reason that there was a spiritual element of things, and that I was just being steered in a different direction. I was going down the nursing road just trying to help my family financially, and maybe that wasn't the reason to major in something. That wasn't the reason to try to get a degree in something, and that's why I was running into these issues. Anyway, I decided to major in math, and that ended up like sort of just revitalizing my, refreshing my, rekindling my love of school, love of learning. Just interact by so many of them. Not all of them were math instructors were different from physicists, but enough of them were just like inspirational. And I just loved that culture of correction, and I just loved being around it. And I loved math. I wasn't that great at it. Also, I took real analysis twice. I failed. I didn't do great in real. I got a C in it the second try. I took it I dropped it the first time. I took it again because I was way over my head the first time, so I ended up dropping it. Took real analysis the second time. Got a C in it, and I was so mad because I was supposed to a B. Took it a third time, and still failed to get a B. Barely failed to get a B, but I just loved it. I loved proofwriting. Proofwriting was like why I loved math. Just dissecting things to the point, deconstructing things, and using that deconstruction to construct things. Construction through deconstruction. That's just like culture. I wasn't that good at it, but I absolutely loved it. Anyway, so they basically, ASU told me I would be able to take math class. They would allow me to. They would pay for my another degree. So they paid for these classes towards a math degree. I added chemistry. I enjoy chemistry, honestly. Chemistry instructor. I enjoy the lab component of chemistry. I didn't really get along with a lot of my chemistry professors. Not gonna be, I'll be honest. But I added a chemistry degree. I ended up graduating with the BA because I was just barred from taking certain chemistry classes gang, and like that's sort of the culture of chemistry. Some chemists will just not let you take a class because they feel like you're not qualified to take a class. There's not really the same culture you find in math or physics. So I was barred from taking certain classes and ended up just graduating with a bachelor's of arts in chemistry, which is nonsense because I already had a physics degree and I was also a math major. Anyway, so I did graduate with a degree in chemistry from ASU and a math degree from ASU, and I was I think that was eventually, but during the program while I was taking math classes and chemistry classes at ASU, I was also taking this gender studies class. So at U of A, and applying to the program at U of A. So a lot of events happening at the same time, sort of trying to recollect them, recall all of them. But that was the basis of me, I think, taking a gender studies class, was that I was already sort of working on classes at ASU, and now I just genuinely just wanted to understand, because I decided to go back and try to get another degree at U of A because everything was going well now. I was going to get a degree. I was rebuilding my GPA, decided to give it one more shot because there was no real penalty now. The money that I lost from ASU was basically being returned to me in the form of another degree. So 12,000 to 14,000 was flushed down the drain for nursing, but now I was getting a free math degree and a chemistry degree. I was trying to take as many classes as I could to make the most of that free tuition that I was getting. So now I felt like, okay, well, now you're not in that much debt. You just really lost the money from 2 community colleges, the first one and then the third one. So, which is like 8,000 total. That's not too much. Now that you know all of this about these nursing programs, your mom is still teaching. She's still the only instructor for the program. And I think I had a conversation with someone that just motivated me to give it one more shot. I think also this is after I finished the gender studies class. And in that gender studies class, my eyes were really open. I stopped resenting these white women. I realized that there was actually, how do I articulate this very quickly? I think recently there was that incident regarding anti-Semitism by Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart, where Jon Stewart went on like a TV show and basically said that he had a conversation with Dave Chappelle, or with Kanye West, and where he said that hurt people hurt people. So after taking that gender studies class, essentially that's what the sentiment that I came away with was that these are women who are navigating a system that is structured to not that is not trying to max out their potential. That is really not. That encourages them to aim low. That is really not interested. So they're trying to navigate a culture that's encouraging them to aim low. The prevailing culture encourages them to aim low and to not really max out their potential. Trying to navigate a world or a country, a culture where they're encouraged to just aim low and really not trying to max out their potential. And just the effect that has on someone over the course of someone's life. Constantly being encouraged to just sort of aim low and not make waves and not really try to realize one's fullest potential, because that might step on other people's toes, or that might not be politically correct or something like that. I don't know. So that was what, just not being able to be oneself. Yeah, let me simplify it that way. So, and that's what I generally believe, feminism is. It doesn't really have anything to do with women. Fundamentally, it's just people wanting the freedom to be whoever they are. Just let me be myself. Don't tell me I have to be a certain way or not be a certain way. Just let me be me. It is just the choice of integrity over security. Thank you, but no thank you for all the holding doors. Thank you, but no thank you for the chivalry. Just let me be myself. That's what I came away. My understanding of of feminism is really not just to happen to apply to women, so they give it a special name, feminism, but a genuinely human struggle to just be who you are and have the freedom to just be who you are and not really conform to be forced to conform to anything. So centers around freedom. Anyway. So I decided I wasn't so angry. I can, when people are oppressed, unfortunately, human nature is such that we find relief in being able to step over people. Yeah, they call it like punching down or something like that. Yeah, especially when we have no real strong sense of internal direction, when we have no strong internal compass. We substitute that compass with all forms of competition. It doesn't even have to make sense. Sexism doesn't make any sense. You're literally poisoning your own gene pool. But that competition gives us relief as human beings. Just being able to point at someone and go, oh, I am above this person. And that gives us, when you don't have a strong sense of where to go in life, suddenly that sense of, oh, I hope to occupy this role. Oh, okay, I play this, I have this status. It fills that void. It is a powerful substitute for that compass. It's only when you have a strong internal compass that you're just like, why? Like, why would I want to step over this person? How does that help us reach this? How does this get me further along the path? Towards this destiny, towards this destination. But when there is no destination, that competition is really hard to let go of. It's a strong, it gives us a strong sense of relief to be able to outcompete people, to be able to look down at other people. Anyway, so it's not really, like I said, these are just human issues. These are just human tendencies. That camera just died, by the way. Battery just, anyway, let me wrap this up. So that's how I decided I wasn't angry at these women anymore in nursing. And then after that, that's I think probably the why I ended up enrolling in that final program at U of A. Crazy nonsense happened in that program. They didn't really even involve the instructor. I did get a yellow form. But it was for utter nonsense. I encouraged them. So at U of A, this is a Phoenix campus, satellite campus for University of Arizona. Their nursing program is in downtown Phoenix, so you didn't have to go all the way to Tucson. And they used like some kind of video, remote video platform, but it was terrible. It broke all the time. So like I was during the first week of class, I think that I approached one of the instructors. Again, like stupid, right? Because I should have realized these are nurses. These are still a white woman, like who's drunk on a lot of power, probably. Anyway, and I recommended they switch to Skype or Zoom because the internet connection, people underestimate how fast, how improved Wi-Fi is become. And I knew a little bit of network engineering at that time. I ended up getting a network engineering degree at the community college level after the fact. Around this time, I was really interested in networks, computer networks. And I recommended that they switch. Zoom was just like budding. In fact, one of my chemistry professors, he loved Zoom, and he was like an evangelist for Zoom. Like no one else really was on that. It was not nearly as popular back then. And I also, I sort of started learning a little bit more about it through him, through his passion for Zoom was infectious, and I liked Zoom a lot too, actually. So I recommended Skype or Zoom. Skype was a lot more popular. I feel like they would have been able to digest that more. Because Skype was also, this is pre-Microsoft Skype. So anyway, so yeah, I recommended they use Skype or Zoom, and she wrote up a yellow form that I was advising faculty by making recommendations that like wasn't appropriate for a student to be making. This is nursing anyway. So I wasn't getting along with her. Um, and then there was an exam where my laptop froze, my tablet froze in the middle of this exam, and I was just like, wow, the karma. It was like the first, I think it was the second exam or the first exam. Um, I didn't want to say karma, but it was, again, I feel like there was a spiritual component to this. Someone just telling me this is not the direction you're supposed to go in. The fact that that tablet would freeze in the middle, like the first time it had ever frozen, in the middle of this exam. So, just to quickly explain what happened at that final program, that's the last time I ever enrolled in a nursing program, went through one, or enrolled. But I took the tablet as it was frozen up to the front of the classroom, um, and I showed the instructor. I was like, my tablet just froze. It's not doing anything. And she tried to tap it, get it to respond. She couldn't get it to respond, and we're just staring at it. We're just like, oh, and she just said, she was reasonable at that point. She was like, okay, well, you'll retake the exam, and just go back and have a seat. And I went back and had a seat, continued to tap on it, and then my stupidity, sort of, I don't know what it was. Again, I think it's just like there's a spiritual element to this. I don't know. So something just came over me. I was just like, you know what? Maybe for some reason I didn't want to retake the exam, which is just stupid. I should just take it anyway. So I decided I would take the tablet up to the instructor and just ask her to maybe hold on to it in case it started responding again, and then I could just continue the exam and not have to retake. Go and find schedule a time to retake it. And this instructor again that I didn't. Well, this is before. Yes, this is before I'd seen the yellow form, right? So she hadn't written me a yellow form yet. So I thought she was cool. So I handed her the tablet. I was like, maybe it'll respond again. I could just finish the exam. And she did take the tablet. She put it on her podium. And I noticed she just like pulled out her phone and she started taking photos of the tablet. And I was just like, in the moment, I was like, what could this woman possibly be doing taking photos of this tablet? Like, it's crashed. Like, she'd already told me that I would retake the exam. What in the world? Why would she? I don't know why she take photos. I find out later on that she was accusing me of cheating during the exam because there was a policy where you can't have other tabs open during an exam. Anyway, she was trying to find something. She found something. I forgot. That I should have just known. Dealing with these type of people, she was searching for some basis the whole time. And as soon as I gave her that tablet, she was just searching for some kind of justification to kick me out of that program. And she found it. She said, oh, there are tabs open in this tablet. So she quickly took photos. That's what she was doing. And I was just stupid. I was just naive to think, oh, she's actually genuinely interested in my academic success. She'll actually just let me take this exam again and just close the tabs, and proctor, watch me take it. Anyway, or just give me a paper exam. Anyway, so she took photos of it and you try to use that as a basis to completely remove me from the program, or she was successful at least using it as a basis to give me a 0 for violating that policy. I think for some reason the dean or whatever like that didn't allow her to use it as a basis for kicking me out. But anyway, without getting a 0 in that class meant I wouldn't pass anyway. So yeah, she was successful in kicking me out of the program on just academic grounds, which is what I think that was a smart route that they were trying to take. As long as I got a 0 on that quiz, it was mathematically impossible to actually pass the class. You have to get above a 90 or something like that. So again, they structure the policy such that it's very easy for them to find a way to kick you out. Anyway, so I got kicked out of that program, but this is after I took the gender studies class, and the gender studies class opened my eyes to a lot of things. So 2016 comes around. So around the time I'm getting kicked out of U of A, the 2015 election or 2016 presidential elections are happening, and just a lot of it's a big deal because Clinton is running, it's first woman. Everyone assumes she's going to be the first woman president, and all this stuff. And it was a big deal also in the nursing, in that gender studies class that I'd taken. So anyhow, and then November comes around, and she actually loses. And I remember just like, just the most qualified probably presidential candidate ever. Spent so much time in the White House, and I didn't personally vote for her. I voted for Jill Stein, but I did feel like obviously it's time to have a female president. It's supposed to be a developed country. This is the most qualified candidate, and then obviously the alternative was complete buffoonery. I remember a debate, one of the Republican debates, where I think Trump was like, Lion Ted. He just kept like using the word Lion Ted. Like that's my name for him, is Lion Ted. And I'm just watching this debate and going, whoa, wow. Like this is a presidential candidate. Like that's why I like to call him Lion Ted. His name is Lion Ted. And I just like the arrogance. This person with the nuclear codes, like, I was just like, wow. On top of so many other things, the tweets. Anyway, so I was just like, I thought there was no way this fool could actually win. And especially to defeat such a qualified candidate, apart from the fact that it was the first female candidate, such a qualified candidate. I think a lot of women were expecting Clinton to win, and a lot of men were expecting Clinton to win, and wanted that history to come to an end. Anyway, because what that would have done for the realm of possibilities for kids, for our children, for not just girls, just children in general. What that would have changed the realm of possibilities for future generations so powerfully. Anyone can become president, male or female, black or white. Also, Obama had already won. This is after Obama. So it would have changed the realm of possibilities for kids. And again, the most qualified candidate probably ever. I don't know that much about presidential history, though. I'm not a presidential historian, but I don't know of any candidate that spent that much time in the White House, Secretary of State, anyway, and then a senator. Anyway, so in the aftermath of that loss, there was a lot of and I just taken that gender studies class and just sort of had a different perspective on things. I didn't hate these nurses anymore, these white women anymore. Sort of understood the complexity of everything. So I ended up attending a meeting, or I wanted to attend a meeting. There was a lot of like protests happening, and I wanted to participate in one of them just to show support. And I think there was a weekend. Yes, there was a week of a series of events. One of them was a day of violence against women, and there was another event that focused on I forget what it was, but anyway, there was a weekend where there was 4 days in a row of events. And the last event was this march, this women's march, the very first one. So I wanted to attend that march, and I actually just I think overslept, something stupid. I ended up missing it, and then there just happened to be, I went online and noticed that there was another event that Sunday, and it was a NOW meeting in downtown Phoenix. So I figured, okay, well, let me try and attend this meeting, since I didn't really get a chance to attend anything else. And it was part of the weekend, sort of kind of separated because it's its own event, but it was lumped together with all the other events for those prior 4 or 5 days. It was right after the Women's March, of course. So um, yeah, so I decided to attend this meeting, and I thought it would be super awkward, very awkward, like me being the only guy, probably the only guy in this meeting. But I wanted to participate because I was so angry at myself for not making that march, and I just wanted to do something. Um, I don't know what that is. With this, it's sort of tied into that. The reason I joined Adios Arpaio, just to not be, just for me, so I know within myself that I wasn't complicit with, even though it didn't make that much of a difference, just to sort of not, yeah, just to not go with the flow and make it known that I wasn't going with the flow. I don't know. I just felt like it was important for me personally. Because not all the time, throughout my involvement with Adios Arpaio, not every interaction was positive. Again, there's just this competition within us as human beings. So not everyone liked the fact that I was a part of that organization, and trying to help out. There were people who were like, "We don't need your help anyway." No one ever said that, but I did get that sentiment. So. Yeah, for me, it was just more important for myself to have done something, to just to know that I did something to try and change things, even if it didn't have that much of an impact. So that was some same sort of train of thought surrounding this meeting and the Women's March. Wasn't anything, not trying to make waves just for myself. Wanted to do something to say this is where I stand. Be sort of very clear about where I stand on it. So yeah, but the meeting was like a little bit much. That meeting, I remember me thinking, this is like kind of like an intimate gathering of women. Like it's gonna be, I don't know what they're gonna be talking about, but like some of the conversation topics might make me a little bit uncomfortable. I had no idea what the women talked about in the now meetings. So I remember getting to the parking lot and just like debating with myself, like, what are you trying to do right now? Like, you just suck it up that you missed the march. The march was a much easier thing to do because a lot of people would have been attending the march. A lot of guys would have been there. I would have been able to just attend the march, go home and maybe, participate in a future protest or something like that. And just know that I took a stand for myself, on it. And yeah, I was just getting ready to finally just be like, you know what, maybe next time I'll just attend a future event. And I was getting ready to leave and not ever even attend the meeting. And as I'm sitting in this car, in my truck, a woman walks right in front of me. And the way that she walks in front of me, it's like with such purpose, and you could not look away. And I just knew where she was going. Yeah, I knew that there was like 99% chance she was going to this meeting, the way she was walking. She's a black woman, dark-skinned black woman, maybe, I don't want to get too much into okay, yeah, I'll explain. So not only was it just like captivating the way she was walking, and I knew where she was going, but also my mind just started thinking, if she's going to this meeting, this is a black woman going to this meeting. Dark-skinned black woman just walking down the street, and I just sort of started thinking about, for some reason, just because I'm stupid, I don't know, I hadn't really like fully thought about sort of the the black woman's perspective of all of this, of the history of sexism in the country, in the world in general. I hadn't really thought that much about how that impacted women who are not white, because a lot of the readings, the focus of the gender studies class was primarily on the white women's perspective. And again, it was sort of an exercise in understanding why I'd been repeatedly kicked out of nursing school by all these white women also. So I was trying to understand what they were thinking, what was going through their head. Sort of trying to get into their head and understand what was motivating their behaviors. Anyway, so I hadn't really thought that much about how all of these gender issues, all this history of discrimination affected, and this struggle for realizing one's potential, how this affected women who are non-white, essentially. I had not really thought about how the Asian woman perspective, the Latina perspective, I hadn't thought about the point of view from any other angle besides, because again, the vast majority of the readings we looked at in the gender studies class focused on the experiences of white women. So that's just sort of jolted me, forced me to consider that. And I just thought for a minute about so much, how so much of our, not only does our culture devalue the experiences of women as secondary importance in general, but also how the prevailing culture is to frame femininity as this sort of like is requiring fragility or requiring like whiteness, because whiteness is commonly seen as sort of delicate or fragile. Things that are white, obviously, the whiter you are, it's just sunburn, etc., bruise easily. Anyway, so how all of that is sort of linked with femininity, bruising easily and not really, having a lot of strength and being white and being dainty. And here's this black woman walking to this meeting, and she's just not dainty. She's unmistakably feminine, but in a completely contradictory way to the prevailing, the socially accepted standards of femininity. She's very powerful in the way she was walking. She just exuded this confidence. Not confidence, just like, what's the word? Resolve. She was just resolved. She exuded this resolve. And again, like, curvaceous. She was not at all like, she just violated all the conventional standards, but at the same time, she was perfectly womanly and beautifully womanly, and walking towards this meeting, and I just knew where she was going, and just seeing her walk, I just started thinking, what would it be like to have to deal with not only all the difficulties, all the issues that come with being a woman in this world, really, to add on top of that being black. And I'm just thinking of, like, my mind is just sort of I'm just ruminating through my experiences with racism in the country, and maybe no, I won't give this. Okay, let me give specific examples of one of them. Sort of already mentioned one of them, but what's a big one? let me not go down that road for the sake of time. Let me not go down that road. Maybe that'll be for another meeting. But the most powerful, most impactful actual instance of racism does not even involve me. The most painful experience I've ever had with it in this country does not even involve me. I'll just quickly explain that one. It involves my little brother. So I've had negative experiences with cops. One of the most negative ones was when I was a freshman. I went to like a party. And I think I mentioned this in the very beginning of the. No, I didn't. I went to this party, underage drinking, and I was just like stupid, like I think I was 18 or 19, in the middle of nowhere. I was in the Midwest at Purdue, and I was in a very tough program. I was an engineering student then. I was actually agricultural engineering student. My passion is I have a green thumb, so I'm very actually, I actually have a strong passion for agriculture, and I've always believed the solution to world hunger is engineering being married with agriculture. Food grows on trees. Food grows on trees. So there's an engineering solution to world hunger, especially in my native country. Well, it's probably not that bad in Nigeria, but especially in Africa, there's an engineering solution to hunger. Anyway, so that was the first major that my first actual official major was agricultural engineering. I liked engineering in general, and it was very hard. So I ended up, one of these weekends I went out and it was just stupid. To this party, was drinking, and then party got busted by Indiana excise police, and because I'm just an idiot coming from Arizona and I had no experience with Indiana police, I remember watching the way this Indiana police officer was talking with students, and I just noticed that he was just more amicable, more like conversational, more talkative with the white students. And then when you get to the black students, he became suddenly stoic and just like very, some people are just, whenever you get in trouble, there's sometimes the person who is getting you in trouble is just sort of like on your level. So he would basically sort of interact with the white students in a way that suggested that he sort of understood, like he had been there before, but then when he got to the black students, his demeanor completely changed. And it was like that mistake was characteristic of them. He saw it as like indicative of something deeper. It wasn't a circumstance. It was like evidence of, first of all, I think, it was sort of typical, and he just had less patience, and he was just his demeanor completely changed. And anyway, so I remember just like being an idiot and just saying straight up to this cop, why are you more talkative with the white students? Being the idiot from, like a 19-year-old from Arizona, and I taken Arizona for granted at that point, like I had generally positive interactions with cops. I had gotten warnings when I didn't deserve warnings, too many warnings when I didn't deserve them, and I didn't appreciate that. And when I was in Indiana, I learned that I really needed to be more appreciative of Arizona cops. But yeah, so that was sort of the first instance I ever had with racism, where I just flat out asked this cop, why are you more amicable with the white students? Why are you more talkative with the white students than the black students? Why are you more positive? Why are you more negative in your interactions with the black students? We're all just underage, it's kids underage drinking here. And he basically was like, shut up. And eventually he told me, in multiple cops, one of them was like a white woman also, she was the one who said, if you say another word, you're going to jail tonight. And I think before that, I called him. I said that you guys are racist or something like that. You're discriminating against students. I didn't think I called him, but I said you're discriminating against students. And then she said, if you say one more word, you're going to jail tonight. And I think I asked a question or something like that. And then they just put me in handcuffs and took me to jail. And I spent the entire weekend in jail. Anyway, so that was my first experience with that. And it ties into the second experience, the most painful experience I ever had with racism, because I don't want to go too much into this. Joseph sort of told me. Joseph was my little brother. He told me about this incident he had, where he was robbed at gunpoint before he started a shift at a facility he was working at, and he was robbed at gunpoint, and he called the cops, called Chandler Police, after he was robbed at gunpoint. And Chandler Police showed up, and I'm reading the police statements. Maybe I'll pull it up when maybe I'll edit this video such that I'll actually include the text. And I'm reading the police statement written by this Chandler police officer, and it's describing Joseph's interaction. And I can see myself, I can see it, the way he's describing Joseph's demeanor. I just know, I can totally see him acting that way. And there was one point, oh man, the story makes me so angry, where the officer says to Joseph, your story doesn't fit this area. So he'd just been robbed at gunpoint. And this police officer says to him, that doesn't fit this area. Your explanation doesn't fit this area. I forget what particularly he said, but basically, the next thing he says is it more likely that you were dealing drugs and something went awry and they stole your stuff and they took your stuff? So I'm just like I can't help but to put myself in his shoes and imagine having experienced the trauma of being robbed at gunpoint. I've only had a gun pulled on me once, and it was by Chandler Police, also coincidentally. But anyway, he didn't get his gun pulled on by Chandler Police. But the only time I ever had a gun pulled on me was by Chandler Police. And it was just like this crazy situation. But I remember in the aftermath of that, just being like shaky. Because, you don't know, your life was just hanging on a thread, moments ago. So I had a gun pulled on me by some random fools though, like trying to take stuff. That would be so, I'm just like, I can't even imagine what that would be like. It was traumatizing enough to have cops pull a gun on me. I can't even imagine just a random fool doing that and wanting to take my belongings. And Joseph had just experienced that. And then to have this cop be like, oh, your story doesn't fit this area. Are you sure you weren't doing a drug deal and they stole your stuff? And in the police statement, I remember the cop wrote that Joseph paused. And it was like I was right there reading it as I was reading it. And he wrote that Joseph paused, and that Joseph looked at the police officer, looked up and quietly said, no, that's not the case. And like, it was like, I can hear his voice as he was saying it. Like in my head, it was like, reading it, I could almost hear his voice and the pain in his voice and humiliation in his voice saying, no, that's not the case. And then the cop proceeds to his own, maybe the cop is afraid, begins to question Joseph. I'm reading the report about other things. And so, to prove that he's not a drug dealer, Joseph hands the cop his phone and logs into his Facebook and has the officer check his Facebook. I think multiple officers have showed up at this point. And so they look through Joseph's Facebook, responding to Joseph's call that he'd been robbed at gunpoint. They are looking through his Facebook on his phone. And I think they eventually, sort of to their credit, find nothing, and so they let Joseph go. They find nothing on his Facebook to suggest that he is in any kind of gang or is involved in gang-related activity, so they let him go. And that actually crazy that actually is deserves applause, because that probably doesn't happen in Indiana. We take, you got to be grateful for what in Indiana, they probably don't reverse their mistake. So apparently they reversed their mistake, and Joseph is no longer the focus of their attention, even though he's the one who made the call. And so they direct their attention to other investigation elsewhere. So at least, I have to applaud that, actually, because in a lot of places in the country, that's not how it would have gone down. They wouldn't have actually tried to get to the bottom of things and look through the Facebook account and realize they'd made a mistake. Anyway, so, but Joseph goes back into work. And this is at a nursing facility. And Joseph was able to get his LPN. He doesn't like to talk about what happened during the program. I'm assuming he experienced something similar, but at least he was able to graduate. I don't know what he did to graduate. I don't know. I heard a little bit about it. Anyway, so he's able to get his LPN. He was working in this building and as an LPN. And when he goes back into the building, and this is where he should have just gone home. But I know that he's just way more disciplined than me, man. This kid is way more disciplined than me. He's just that, and I think an element of it is also being Nigerian, being sort of a counterexample to the prevailing black norms in the United States. He probably tries to be more disciplined than he would naturally be if he wasn't in this country, I think. Anyway, so when he should have just gone home, he decided, no, I'm going to try to finish my shift. I don't know why. But so when he goes back into the building, the nurses tell the police, Channel Police are sort of asking everyone questions. The nurses tell police that they believe Joseph is part of the reason why those people came, the robbers came at all. So everyone is sort of freaking out that when they hear that someone was robbed in gunpoint, and so these nurses basically tell Channel Police they believe that Joseph sort of brought it upon himself, and that they think he is involved in the gang activity. Again, credits to Chandler Police, they don't entertain it, but the nurses ended up calling. I think the director of nursing sort of gets involved and calls Joseph and sends him home from work, so he doesn't even get to go back to work. He gets sent home, and he eventually gets fired from that job. And just like that is the most painful. I wish that had happened to me, because I know how I would have responded. But the fact that it happened to him is just unspeakably painful, because he's taken the right, he's done the right things when I've done the wrong things. I wish so badly that could have been me, that experience. I would have deserved sort of that treatment, honestly, on a level. And instead, somehow he ends up having to suffer through that. And I just, yeah, I just, that's just, I just want that. I wish I could just switch places with him and have that, me have gone through that. I can't believe that he had to go endure all of that. The police showing up, being robbed at gunpoint, and the police showing up and accusing him, then going through his Facebook, then going to work, and then having the nurses sort of point the fingers at him. That there's nurses that he works with all the time. He's an LPN. He works with them. These are his colleagues. Suddenly, sort of to jump on this, I don't know, bandwagon of the, and maybe they heard that the cops had initially believed that he was under investigation. I don't know, but suddenly to turn on him and suggest that he was part of the reason that these, and it turns out after the fact that these kids were just driving around randomly around the valley, terrorizing people. They were arrested. These are like teenagers driving through the valley. So after retrospect, that's what happened. But in the moment, they were just afraid, and they threw him under the bus. And to experience so much humiliation in one night, so much like psychological, like I don't know how I would have processed that, but I would have preferred it. It would have been easier for me to process that. I can't imagine him trying to process that. So, anyway, that's the most painful experience I ever had with racism. And just, I'm watching this woman walk into this meeting, and I'm just thinking, what would it be like to have to endure, like, to have to navigate the world as a woman and a black person? And I just, to keep it short, got my butt up out of that truck. Like, I felt like a complete idiot for even like equivocating at all about going into this meeting. Because I know it was going to be a little bit awkward taco, me being a guy and like the only guy. I felt stupid, so I immediately get out of the car and I walk into this meeting. And I'm not even the only guy in the meeting. There's like multiple men in the meeting. And the meeting is just like everything else. I almost feels like a spiritual experience, honestly. Like, I have no other words to describe it. I end up joining the committee, just like on a last minute like whim, because no one else is raising their hand to join this committee. And the events, the topics of conversation during this meeting, it was like one after the other was eye-opening. It was like domestic violence, which, and the way they talked about it, I just felt like there should be men in this meeting. It shouldn't be a bunch of women gathered around talking about domestic violence. There should be men in that meeting. And I made a mistake that this is the first time I'd ever attended a meeting where women talked about domestic violence. And then the next topic was like, a big topic was obviously electing women, because obviously Clinton had just lost unbelievably, spectacularly lost. And big topic of conversation was electing women into political office, because the vast majority of politicians were male in Arizona and everywhere in the country they are. And then right at the next conversation was like pornography, and social media, and like, and the next topic of conversation was like abortion, which is one of the most, probably the only really controversial topic. I don't like abortion, but again, it's more about freedom. I see it now as issue that's fundamentally about the freedom to do what someone wants with their body. Yeah, it's about liberty and it's about freedom. And it's very, very controversial. Anyway, so that's conversation, and I felt like there should have been men listening to that, listen to women talk about abortion rights. And then the next topic was like ERA, which is just like crazy. Like the fact that this legislation that is so innocuous on its face, and innocuous in its nature, to just state that it will be the official policy. It will be a constitutional amendment that women and men will have equal rights. Literally, an equal rights amendment. Women and men will have. There will be males and females. Actually, it's regarding sex. It's discrimination on the basis of sex will be prohibited under the Constitution. Very basic. Just ending sex discrimination is beneficial to the progress of every country, because obviously that doubles your number of engineers, your number of physicists, your number of chemists. It is just, sex discrimination is the stupidest form of discrimination, because it's literally pointing a gun at your foot and shooting it. The more successful half the population women are, the more successful your society is. So it just feels good for males to be able to reference someone that by virtue of birth you're automatically seen as having a higher status than. Not having to really in vain, oh yeah, we work so hard, but you don't know what would be possible, what women be capable of if they had the opportunity to work as hard. Anyway, so the ERA was the next, so issue after issue, I was just like, wow, this is basic. There's nothing controversial besides abortion. There's nothing really controversial about any of these issues, just feeling a sense of embarrassment that I had taken so long to ever walk into one of those meetings. And at the end of it all, people were joining committees. Hot one was social media committee, and communications or events committee was also very hot. No one was wanting to join the legislative committee. It was very few hands that went up when they were asking people, recruiting for committees of the organization. And I saw that, and I was just like, okay, well, that's pretty important. Legislative committee is pretty important. That's where you actually have tangible progress. You can affect this legislation, you can canvass, you can do very concrete things. It's a lot less concrete to try to affect, culture through social media. A lot harder, more challenging. But legislation is a lot more tractable. You can actually, point to key pieces, key provisions, and key policies. Anyway, so I raised my hand and I joined the legislative committee, and it turns out that the sort of chair is this woman called Diane Post, and she's sort of one of the most important figures, if not the most important in Arizona sort of women's movement. We end up having she does these action alerts. Every week she does these action alerts where she tabulates key pieces of legislation that are coming up, and what action that she thinks the organization should take, what recommendations she has, and how to take action on those pieces of legislation. So she calls these legislative action alerts. And so one night, I was at ASU. She called me, so I joined the legislative committee, and because it was at that point one of the smallest committees, and it ended up being one of the most important committees. Probably still to this day, it's the most important committee of that chapter of NOW, at least. And through it, I ended up becoming the PAC chair because I ended up helping Diane on these action alerts. Although we ended up not getting along. Anyway, I showed her how to write these action alerts, send mass emails out without even needing any kind of service. You could just because emails are HTML, most of the time they're HTML, they're sent out as HTML. You can actually embed HTML tables directly in email. I showed her how to do that, and it just became, there were a lot of things I could teach. I could show, there was a lot of value I could add to the organization, it also challenged me also to learn a little bit more about these, those technologies. So there are a lot of things I knew that they didn't know that could help improve their organization. So I ended up learning like web development really through my involvement with Now. They needed, after the action alerts, showing her how to build those HTML tables. I sort of just like, I don't know, it became a regular thing where I would help her do those action alerts. And then the newsletter committee, somehow I got involved with like building a newsletter. Now I knew a little bit of HTML, so I drafted put together a little draft of a newsletter, and they loved that also, an HTML newsletter. And then they needed a website. So the Central Phoenix chapter needed a website. Inez Cassiano is what it was called. The namesake is a woman named Inez Cassiano. And so I built a website. They ended up choosing this woman named Pat to build it, who built it in WordPress. And I'd never really heard of WordPress before, but it was her website was cleaner, but it wasn't custom built. We didn't have as much control, and I actually hated WordPress out of the gate. But I conceded that it was a fast way and more maintainable, more organizationally friendly way of building a website, because you could easily teach people and assign certain tasks to people using WordPress. Much harder to do with HTML. If you're hard coding everything, it was much more modular. Anyway, so I learned web development. I ended up building the website for the state chapter, or AZNOW, and then became the PAC chair and built the PAC chair website, and just became increasingly involved with Now. It started with that meeting, and I just accelerated my involvement. Once I started getting involved, there was just a lot of things that I could help on. I eventually left the organization after a crazy series of events. Maybe I'll save that for another video. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I just wanted to do a video on how I joined Now, and I gotta pee. All right, I'm gonna stop the video.